Hello. What's happening? What up, though? Salutations. How you doing? Uh, I am an avid reader, so bear with me because it takes a while to get through some of these books, and I've gotten about a little bit left. See, just a little bit left of this book. I'm damn near done with this book. Trust me, that means I'm damn near done with it. This book, I'm equally about halfway through. I've gotten through maybe 3 or 4 chapters of this book. Tribal Science, Brains, Beliefs, and Bad Ideas, Imaginary Landscapes, Making Worlds of Myth and Science. What I'm trying to do, what I like to do on my channel, is connect to people in all different genres of life, you know what I'm saying? Different areas of life or whatever. Hold on, let me keep it right up. Bing. Yeah, buddy. All the light, right? But that being said, you know, I'm definitely a wizard. That makes me a scientist. I'm definitely a scientist. That makes me a wizard. There's a new mentality, this new age mentality. That's the way I like to put it, the way I've heard it said, and the one that makes the most sense. I'm an 80s baby, you feel me? I'm in my mid-30s. Got my OZ Einstein going today, you feel me? Got my old man showing, you dig? I do have a rational, logical mindset. I grew up in the era of the rational, logical mentality. Mentality is the key word here. Mentality. The mentality. I mean, I don't even need to break that down. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. So all of this spirituality shit, all of this third eye awakening, opening, what was happening years ago, all of that now, they're not talking about third eye as much as they are now, or they used to be, and whatever else. But all of the chakras, all of these different systems of enlightenment are all because of one thing: a shift in mentality, an evolution of the brain. See, now we have the science to back up all the mysticism and magical shit. We have enough science. I marked a page in here just for that reason. I want to share this with you guys. The science fiction author, Arthur C. Clarke's third law comes to mind here. In his revised collection of essays, Profiles of the Future, Clarke suggests that any technology sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic. Key differences between sorcery and science become almost trivial as the scope of our knowledge expands beyond the horizon. You see what I'm saying? High science is magic. It's trivial. It makes no difference. I always explain to people when I talk about my crystals and it's how does it power and how does it work. These crystals, especially the way I charge them when I make my custom orders and whatnot for people, look at your cell phone. It's just that simple. Look at your cell phone. It's made of crystals, such as silicone, but I mean LCD, liquid crystal display. It's right there in your face. The shit holds power. It's in a cell phone, right there. So, I mean, you know, do I need to say more? Look at your cell phone. You even recharge it by plugging it up into some electricity. I recharge them. Energy never dies. So the thought that you put into these, the effort that you put into them, it never dies. These grow in the first place. So the mentality, the new mentality, the brain, let's get back to the books, right? Because it's about the books. We go over books in this channel, amongst other things, but this is a book video, right? My bad. The brain has evolved to help you survive. This is where science came from in the first place. And it's really cool when you start reading one book and it takes you into another book, which takes you into another book, which I'm going to flash this one, bing. But I'm going to tell you more about that one if you stick along a little later in the video. Because that is the book right there. If you have that highly rational, logical mind, I consider myself one of those rainbow kids, star seeds, whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? I can't remember which one it is, but I think I resonated with like the lion star seed. That was my shit. When I meditated. Anyways, the brain has evolved. When the brain evolves, the mind evolves and whatnot. And that's what all this awakening and whatever is. If you don't have this new mentality and you want to try to understand what these kids are on, or again, you know, like I said, I ain't no kid, I'm in my mid-30s. You're trying to understand what's going on because I feel like, and this is just my opinion, I feel like majority of the kids being born and whatever today are born with their third eyes completely open and there's not a damn thing you can do to close it. Nothing. Slow it down maybe, confuse them, but close it, I don't see that happening. Because it's a mentality. It's how the brain works, period. Tribal science. The brain evolved to help you survive. It evolved to deal with other people socially. This is why certain clothes that you wear represent certain cultures that you belong to. They're immediate signifiers. Hey, I'm on this, I'm on that. Crystal gang, player. You know? But that's what the brain does. My bad, all the light. I don't need that. That's what the brain does, right? It helps you to survive, and it's meant, you know, interacting with other people. That's where science came from, period. Being able to interact with other people and say, hey, this is this, that is that. This is this is that. You feel me? Brains, beliefs, and bad ideas, right? So there's the brains aspect of it. How we got to the type of culture and society that we're in now, right? Beliefs. Again, it's about surviving. Basically, most of you people are afraid to die. We've gotten to that point. And that's because you don't know what's going to happen when you die. So, reading books like this, we are some occult, esoteric. We want higher knowledge. That's what we do in here. You know, we're chasing higher knowledge. So there's the beliefs, what you believe in. When science became the new religion, basically, it's what everybody believes in, for real, for real. They believe in atoms and electrons and molecules and shit. They don't believe in magic anymore. But high science, again, if you picked up a rock, a crystal, a black stone, like your black glass on your cell phones, but if you picked up a rock, started touching it, swiping on it, and somebody popped up, just like this YouTube video is popping up, and that would be considered magic, witchcraft, sorcery. If this shit happened 200 years ago and you had a cell phone, sorcery, magic. You see what I'm saying? Now it's just technology. It's just shit everybody can do. This is why they make the movie, that little Disney movie, Onward, I believe. Magic was everywhere, but it was hard to do. Not everybody could tap into it back then. The new mentality, man, we there with it. Everybody can tap in, especially if you melanated. But white, black has absolutely nothing to do with it. This is about evolution of the new man, brains. This is about your conscious mind. So again, there you go. Brains, how they evolved, why they evolved, help you survive. The brain will tell you anything. So this is wrapping it around in holistically and whatever else. This is how I could be talking about magic and get a book like Tribal Science and understand we own one here. You know what I'm saying? This definitely falls into the realm of occult. This is definitely magic because, again, the brain will tell you anything. Your ego fights to survive. So part of what you're doing by your chakra work and meditating is quieting the mind. Some of what it is quieting the mind, the so-called monkey mind, right? There you go. That explains some of the science behind it, because ever since the caveman went from and we started developing languages and cultures, we went from hunting and gathering to gardening, so forth and so on. You know what I'm saying? There you go. The brain was evolving to deal with shit in other ways. And you can also say our sciences was evolving along the way. So, that being said, I'm going to get to here, Making Worlds of Myth and Science. This, again, is a good book. Now, it talks about the story of Rapunzel. To give a quick breakdown of this book, in the beginning, it just explains our way of storytelling, so to speak, imaginary landscapes. But what I like the most, the first thing you're going to really come across is the story of Rapunzel. This is what did it for me. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. We all know that story, but this is the Greek Aesop's fable, the old legend of Rapunzel. You know what I'm saying? Grimm's fairy tale Rapunzel. Not Tangled, not Disney, not in the last 50, 60 fucking years. You feel me? Basically, the old school Rapunzel, there was a man and a woman, and they lived outside of a witch's garden. Her garden was well defended, this, that, and whatever. Had a big high wall over it. The woman got extremely hungry for a plant and wanted to add it to a salad that was in the witch's garden. Felt like she was going to die. The husband didn't want her to die, so he climbed over the wall, broke into the garden. The witch punished him for it, but was like, you know what, you can eat everything. You can have as much of the food as you want. Just give me your daughter. Your wife's not going to die, so you got plenty of time to make another daughter, but let me get that baby that's getting ready to come out. 9 months ain't long. So basically, he gave up the baby. The baby turned out to be a girl. Turned out to be one of the most beautiful girls in the land. The witch, like her garden that was had high wall around it and whatever else. The witch took the daughter, put her up in the tower, tower, no walls, no windows. We all know that bit, right? Put her up there and would come to her every day. Rapunzel let down your hair. Eventually, she grew up to be one of the most beautiful women in the land. The king's son went around, was just out hunting in the woods or whatever, heard her singing, found his way to her. Before he could get to her, he couldn't figure out a way to get up her, but he heard the witch coming. And again, they say sorceress, which if you understand, a sorceress has no negative connotation. The sorceress is an intelligent, highly intelligent woman, like a wizard. You see what I'm saying? A scientist, not a witch. There's no negative connotation towards that. But in here they talk about sorceress. They make it a witch in Disney, so it's easier to say witch. Your mind connects closer to it when you say witch. And if you with it like I'm with it, I have no problem with witch at all. So anyway, that being said, trying to make this a quick video, hence why I'm talking fast. That being said, it takes the story of Rapunzel. I'm going to give you just that little piece right there. The prince comes to the tower. Here's the witch. Witch leaves. Prince figures out how to, emulate the witch. Rapunzel, let down your hair. He starts to get with Rapunzel up in the tower. They fall in love, start making love, or whatever. One day, he goes to climb the tower, ends up finding the sorceress up there and not Rapunzel. The sorceress scares him, tells the cat's going to scratch out your eyes, whatever. Prince falls out the tower, wanders around the forest for a long-ass time, eating berries and nuts off the forest ground because he can't see. His eyes he's been blinded, so he can't see, so he can't hunt, can't do anything, so he just been reaching, point is eating berries and shit off the floor until eventually he comes to a wasteland. Somebody sees him. That somebody is Rapunzel, because part of Rapunzel's punishment is she got sent out of the tower to the wasteland on the outskirts of the forest, which you might could say civilization. But anyways, to the wasteland on the outside of the forest with her, and where she gave birth to her 2 kids, because again, she been meeting up with the prince. They've been getting busy. So she sees the prince, and he's all raggedy and fucked up because he's been, crawling around for years and wandering for years and whatever else. And she sees him, recognizes him. He doesn't know who she is. She starts crying. Her tears heal his face, so now he can see. He sees her, recognizes who she is. Now that he can see again, he can find his way home, takes her, their kids, back to the kingdom. to live happily ever after. Now, how does science apply to that? In this book, it describes to you, there is an actual plant with the scientific name Rapunzel, da 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 da, but Rapunzel is in the name of the plant. You feel me? O.Z. Einstein. There's a plant. So now we're talking about actual plant that's out there. And it has a long stem in the middle. And you know how the bees pollinate the flowers from dot to whatever, right? Well, this plant, this Rapunzel plant or whatever, that's actually out there in the world. It may be ancient, it may still be around, but I do believe it's still around. But this Rapunzel plant has a stem in the middle of it, and if no bees pollinate it, if it doesn't get pollinated or germinated or whatever the hell you call it, if it doesn't find a way to get some outside genetics, you know what I'm saying, to be pollinated from another plant somehow, some way, then it will split, the stem will split, and become two hair-like fibers or whatever. The stem will split into two hair-like fibers and scrape the outside of the plant, scrape the pollen itself from itself, its own pollen from the outside of the plant or whatever, and then come back into the middle on whatever. And that's how it germinates or pollinates itself with its own pollen. So it can reproduce and have seeds and push and whatever itself. See what I'm saying? It can perpetuate itself, right? So, anywho, to keep it like that, you know what I'm saying? To keep it like that, that's where you would then have the sorceress or the outside, the external force that's basically stopping the plant or that would prevent the plant from being pollinated somehow, some way, in some other way, shape, form, and fashion. So, not only is that story talking about an actual plant and its life cycle and its name, Rapunzel and whatever else, you get the story from just a little fairy tale face value to tell kids a little children's story at night, right? You get the story from an actual plant level and whatnot. You also get the story from a social level, because this is from way, way back. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of years ago when they first came out with Rapunzel. So it's why it's a mythology. It's way old. But the science behind it, there's also social, I guess, political science, because remember there was a matriarchy. Women were in charge. Women were the heads of everything before they became a patriarchy. Now you see the man on top, of president, kings, right? So that being said, this book helps to explain some of that as well. That story of Rapunzel explains some of that as well, because as you see in the beginning, the wife was like she's gonna die. The husband went off to go get whatever from the witch. He basically broke into her shit. She punished him for it. Well, the prince did the same thing. He climbed the tower that the witch made and whatever else, got into another one of her gardens where she was growing something. You see what I'm saying? And basically got with the princess, got with Rapunzel or whatever, you know? And she didn't like that. She tried to punish him for it and whatnot, and he wandered around and whatever else, but true love, or however it is. This being said, he basically still ended up, no matter what happened, he still ended up with his bride and went back to the kingdom, lived happily ever after. You feel me? So basically, it kind of shows the matriarchy, the woman in charge, hey, go do this, go do that, to the man being in charge and whatever else. You know what I'm saying? It also shows like the lust of what a young guy will do, you know what I'm saying? What the prince will do to get his, you know? Because not only that, it goes into more detail about the story as far as Rapunzel, like he could climb down using her hair, but how was Rapunzel going to climb down from the tower? So she sent the prince off, told him, every time you come back to me, bring me a thread or of some thread and whatever, and I'll build me a rope or a ladder, or weave me a rope, a ladder, whatever, and that's how she'll get down. So they were in the process of doing that. He was coming back every night and whatever else, right? So they were in the process of doing that when one day he came back, seen the witch, and everything went bad from there. Okay, boom. So it explains that. But not only does it explain that from, I guess, the social political level as far as what was going on back then and why they came up with this story, and why this story was even relevant, why it stuck around so long. It also explains it on a cosmic level. Yes, now we're talking about planets. Another reason why this book comes out before that other one. I'm trying to squeeze this in before, I'm trying to keep it short. So Venus, The path that Venus makes throughout the stars, if you was to calculate and chart Venus's path throughout the cosmos and whatnot, it basically makes a 5-petal flower type of shape. So they've named a lot of flowers like after Venus, and Venus is the planet of love, Aphrodite, Venus, right? So again, Venus, let's say Venus is Rapunzel. The path that Mars makes throughout the planets and whatnot. So while Venus is doing his thing, Mars kind of goes off on his own thing and whatnot. And Venus is doing his path. And then somewhere along the way, Mars and Venus meet up for a little while and they travel the same path. And then Mars goes off onto his thing and Venus keeps doing this and that and whatever else. So to sum it all up really quick, Rapunzel explains to you what's happening on the cosmologic level as well. Because we'll just say, not even the outside force or whatever else, but if the king is the sun, right, because the sun shines on whatever else, Mars is the next hottest planet. But Mars would be the prince. Mars is also the warrior, the ruler of Aries and Scorpio. Aries is the warrior, right? So Mars is the warrior planet where you get your energy and vitality from, Mars and the sun. So anyways, point is, Mars is the prince, Venus is Rapunzel, the love. So anyways, they meet up for a while, then break apart, then come back again. Rapunzel, the prince, met up with Rapunzel, then they broke apart, then they came back again. Now this don't really happen much on Disney, but this is why we talking about the myth. You know what I'm saying? We go way back, like the Bible is a myth, so to speak. But there's the science behind it. That's what we doing here. That's what you really need to be into. That's what the New Age mentality is actually about, uncovering the science. That's what a cult is, the hidden knowledge, hidden culture, right? So let me slip this in here. If you like this, if you want to know more about the Rapunzel shit, you want to know more about the tribal science book and the evolution of the actual brain, how it came out throughout, let me know in the comments and whatnot, and we'll try to do a video. I'll do a video of each individual book, but this for real right now, it's about getting the knowledge out. Gene Gebser. This book, I believe, was written either in the 1940s or the early 1900s, but my point is they knew about this type of thing damn near 100 years ago, because here we are in 2020. So if not over 100 years ago, 100 years ago, almost 100 years ago, they knew, the powers that be, the elite. Look how thick this book is. This is volume 1 and volume 2. I got it off of Amazon for maybe $45, $50. The Ever-Present Origin by Gene Gebser, right? So it talks about the the mentalities throughout the years. First dimension, this is how you really, and connect it all, right? Dimensions. So if I'm talking about dimensions, that takes you back to the third eye, enlightenment, higher realms, whatever. So the first dimension that we hit was the magical man. There was spirits and everything. We had a magical mentality, a magical mind frame, right? There's a spirit in the flower. There's spirits in the water. There's magic in everything that you see. We're all connected. Everything is one. Then you get to the second dimension where man developed the next mentality. They went from the first mentality, hunt and gathering, right? They were nomads. They traveled from spot to spot. You can also say once the population began to grow, because there's also evidence of that in these big ass books. See, these guys do the research, go through the science, and show you the history of the shit. That's why it's lightweight, undisputed. Wizard and scientist. You feel me? They are talking about magic. They are talking about religion. They are talking about spirituality. And they're also talking about science and culture and art and whatnot. You know, the first man was doing pictures on walls and shit. So that's one-dimensional, right? Then you get two-dimensional. Then you get three-dimensional, right? So first you have the dot, pixels, and whatever else. Then you have the circle. Then you get three-dimensional and understand there's a sphere. Then you get to the fourth dimension, where we're at now. Then you get to the fourth dimension, which he explains in this book. The magical man was the first mentality of man, the man that came out the caves, the caveman mentality, whatever else. Then came the mystical man, so was magic and everything, mystical man. Mystical man believed in gods. There's a god of this, a god of that, a god of the river, a god of the night, a god of the day, right? And then when that shit started to get played out, now there's 1,000 gods, and every culture that you go to has a different god, and there's gods of every. Once that shit started to get played out, then came the logical man, which is back to the tribal science book. The brain evolved to deal with other people. Now we got all these gods and whatnot. So eventually the new generations came up to say, well, the gods ain't going to stop this bullet. There are gods, the elements, you know what I'm saying? It went from water was the most basic element to then we broke it down to we got molecules. There's shit that makes up water, you know what I'm saying? Like hydrogen and oxygen, you know, things of that nature, nitrogen, calcium, all of these like elements, right? Sodium, phosphorus, elements, right? We started getting elements. So then in comes the logical man. That was like the Renaissance, whatever else. Boom. In comes the logical man, where we understand space and time. So the logical man says, you know, even them elements can get smaller than that. Now we have protons, electrons, neutrons. You know what I'm saying? We have molecules, cells that make up this and make up that. The cells now. Now we know about mitochondrion. You see what I'm saying? I can't talk to you about magic if I can't talk to you about mitochondrion and meiosis. We can't talk about bacteria and viruses and how they're going on inside your body. They're living and eating parasites and shit going on inside of you. There's a world inside of you going on inside your body that you know nothing of, or you don't really have access to, you don't really tap into. But there's a whole type of shit living and dying inside your body. You're housing a whole world, a whole universe inside your body. See what I'm saying? So anyways, we now understand that we're past the third dimension and we've approached and entered the fourth dimension. So I'm going to leave y'all with that. This is the fourth dimension, new age mentality, the new age, whatever. This shit really breaks it down for you and gets you to understand it. If you need me to, if you want me to, again, like, subscribe. If I get to 1,000, I can go live and really just kick back and relax and get into more depth and detail about this. But that's what's going on with all of this new age spirituality and with all of that opening your third eye and do this yoga and chakras and whatever else. That's the new age mentality. The man that is able to incorporate, and he calls it the integral, the magical, then the mystical, then the rational, or you could say logical, because some people like words. Again, that's why there's even two words, rational, logical, that type of man. And now you have the integral, the integral man, who's able to integrate magic, mysticism, and logic all into one thing. I'm a wizard for a reason. Energy never dies. So when I'm speaking, this vibration that I'm using the power and energy to come out of my throat and say, it is going somewhere. There may be something right in front of my face that I can't see, just like dog whistles, sounds that you can't hear, something right in front of my face, eating that up. Every word I say, just every time I say something. When I speak to my crystals and I talk to them, that energy that I'm pushing out, that vibration goes into them, and it may oscillate at a very low wave. And by oscillate at a low wave, if you've ever had an AC/DC course, now I'm talking computer science, mechanical engineering, alternating currents is AC, 110 volts. You've heard of voltage. I'm talking electricity. Waves. There's the positive, which is the up, and the negative. That's alternating. When you have DC, direct current, you just use the positive and you don't worry about the negative. So it's like that. Alternating does this. And as you see, AC is more powerful than DC. Well, I don't necessarily want to say more powerful, but AC is more widely used. So I'm going to leave y'all with that. The ever-present origin, Gene Gebser. Enjoy. Like, subscribe. OZ the Wizard. Like I said, we can go down any one of these lines. I go down a lot of different tangents. I take a lot of different paths on my spirituality. So let me know. I love y'all, man. Learn, live.